Toastmaster. Good morning, everyone. It is my privilege today to introduce our first speaker, and that is going to be Jesse Sutton. And Jesse is going to be talking to us today about beer. The title of his speech is The Informed Beer Drinker. This is project number 2, Speaking to Inform, from the Advanced Communicator Series Manual, Resources for Informing. Jesse's goals are going to be to analyze your audience regarding your chosen subject. He will focus his presentation at the audience's level of knowledge. And some of us don't know a whole lot about beer. He will also focus on building a strong case for each major point in his speech to be gathered through research that he has done and effectively use at least one visual aid to enhance the audience's understanding of his speech today. And as an inveterate, am I pronouncing it correctly? Inveterate? Uh-oh, well, I lost my points. Okay. Let's bring Jesse up to the podium so he can tell us about the informed beer drinker. Thank you.
Fellow Toastmasters and get my first resource going here. So, you may not be a beer drinker, but I'm sure you've at least cooked one time in your life. I hope you have anyway by this time. So, this will apply to you even if you don't drink or make beer. So, here is my second visual aid. Too bad Luis is not here. He's the one who told me my last beer speech that I needed samples. Though I can't bring actual beer here, I can bring samples of the ingredients. So you are welcome to open those up and take a sniff. Actually, if you leave them on the tray and pass it around, you can just look at and kind of smell them. You can touch them. You know, get a feel for what actually goes into beer. And I'm going to talk about 3 of the major components of beer. So the first component you need is some sort of grain. Now you all have a handout here, and these are some of the grains that are used in beer making. At the top you'll have your base malts. So one of the things you need to make alcohol is sugar. So within grain are starches, and through the process of brewing, enzymes in the grain break down the starches into sugars, and that provides the fuel for the yeast to actually ferment the beer or ferment the, it's actually called wort before it becomes beer. So there's a couple base malts, and you'll see them on the tray. It's either 2-row barley, 6-row barley, or a wheat. So very basic grains. And then from there are different specialty grains, which are listed below. And they're just processed differently than the base malts. Malting is the process where grain is sprouted, and then they put it in a kiln and heat it up to varying temperatures, and that's how you get the different malts. So if you ferment it, or if you heat it up for a long time at a higher heat, you're going to get something like roasted barley, which is you'll see on the tray. It's one of the darker ones. So that's one of the first ingredients in beer. So the base malt, as I said, gives you the sugar. The specialty malts will give you more of the flavors and colors of the beer. If you've ever seen different beers, there's a variety of different colors from really, really dark to really, really light, and it just depends on the mixture of grains that we used. So one of the next major ingredients in beer are the hops, which are also in there. I would have opened them all up, but the whole room would have smelled like hops, and I don't know if that would have been such a good thing. So hops are, it's actually called a vine. It's not a vine because it actually has spines that help it to climb and grow, and they can grow 18 to 20 feet tall if allowed to grow. And it's the flowers of the hops that are actually used in brewing. And depending on the variety, you'll get several different flavors or aromas, and it's also on your handout. So you can get spicy, floral, fruity, citrus, herbal, and then some are more earthy, and then some are more evergreen. And I have a variety of different ones on the tray, and you can maybe smell some of the subtle ones, subtle differences between them. And sometimes these are the flavors, not necessarily the aroma. So hops, when they're added to the beer as it's being boiled, you get different characteristics. So if you put it in at the beginning of the boil and it's in the kettle or vessel for the full 60 minutes, you're going to get more of the bitterness. You're not going to get any of these flavors or aromas. It's all going to get boiled out because the chemicals are pretty volatile. Now if it's put in between 15 and 30 minutes into the boil, you're going to get more of the flavor. So there won't be so much bitterness from it, but you'll get these spicy or floral or evergreen flavors. And then if you put it in within the last 5 minutes or when you turn off the heat, you'll get the aromas. So you'll be able to actually smell the citrus or the floral. Or as you can see on most of these, there's a mixture and it can be very different. I do have a sample of Tettnanger here, which it puts it in the middle, but if you smell that one, it's very spicy. And it also has a very spicy flavor to it. So even though it's not way out on the edge of the spicy, you do get that flavor. And say Challenger, I don't have a sample of that, but that doesn't have that spiciness that the Tettnanger has. So there's all different varieties, and different brewers are a little more adamant about what flavors they want in their beers. And they just actually go and take samples from either even specific farms to get the flavor or the aroma that they want in their beer. So even where hops are grown can determine what you get out of them. So one that's grown in New Zealand, even though it's the same variety, it may even be from the same plant. If it's grown in the US versus New Zealand, it will have different characteristics just because the soil and chemistry and things that are beyond my scope of knowledge. So that's it for that. But we also have to talk about yeast, which is another very important aspect of beer. And as with any other cooking or any other culinary thing, you can have all different varieties of yeast strains. And that will give the beer different flavors, different characteristics. Some yeasts will ferment all the sugar in a beer and it'll make it very dry. Other yeasts won't, they don't tolerate or aren't able to process certain sugars, so you'll get a sweeter beer out of it. And I'm sure everyone's, if you're a beer drinker, have had an ale or a lager, and those are even very different strains of yeast, and you'll get very different flavor out of that. So there's many different things that go into a beer, and when I first got into beer making, I had no idea about any of this. I just thought, beer's beer. I don't know what makes anything one different from the other. But after brewing for a while and seeing all these different characteristics and being able to experience different hops and different yeasts, it's a really interesting and fun hobby and something you can really experiment with. And if you're someone who likes to cook, then it's something you can get into or not if you choose. There's also many different beers that are, everybody knows the craft brew industry, so there's lots of different options. And so hopefully you're a little more informed about beer and beer making. And if you choose to partake, then you can have some more information about what you're actually drinking. So thank you.